Transforming a 90s Hot Wheels PC into a modern gaming beast. I actually want to see this.
Hello, I'm Shank, and this is the Hot Wheels Sleeper PC. It's a current, absolutely top-of-the-line gaming PC crammed into the infamous 90s computer case. But what's even crazier than this monstrosity is the story of how I wound up
The truth
building.
about Retro
It all started with a phone call.
He doesn't wash his hands.
Yes. Yes.
My friend Kale.
Hello?
You have to come to this.
Kale told me a story of an old computer warehouse called Computer Reset, whose owner had been collecting computer hardware for decades. However, due to declining health of the owner, the warehouse was being liquidated. I wasn't much into retro computing, but the warehouse was full of CRT monitors, something I am very much into.
Oh, those are so cool. Yo, the CRTs, dude.
I wasn't much into retro computing, but the warehouse was
Superman
full of CRT
one?
monitors, something I...
That's fire as fuck. I always wanted a TV that looked kind of like this as a kid. Not specifically Superman, but you know, the themed CRT TVs.
I'm very much into.
Them shits is fire. I
Upon my
want
adventures
one.
digging through the warehouse, I acquired many of the CRTs I was looking for, but also something I wasn't looking for.
Check it out, there was also a Hot Wheels computer or two lying around.
Oh, that shit's tiny.
It was me. I grabbed it. And I began to wonder. The Hot Wheels computer was sold as a set. Could the Hot Wheels CRT, one of the 2 tubes on my CRT bucket list, be here too? Well,
He got the Shrek one too?
I didn't find the Hot Wheels CRT, or any Hot Wheels accessories for that matter. In a desperate, last-ditch effort, I made sure everyone there was aware I was on the hunt for the blue, flame-engulfed monitor. They said they would let me know if they found one, but you know how that goes. When I got home, I opened up the Hot Wheels PC to discover that the motherboard was completely corroded and beyond repair. Since restoring it was not an option, I opted to give it new life as a sleeper gaming PC. My budget for the project at the time was thin, so I began accumulating scrap parts. A mini ITX board, an older mid-range processor, and a sketchy power supply from Goodwill. With these parts in hand, I bit the bullet to buy the remaining parts, spending around $300 on a GTX 1650 Super graphics card, 16 gigs of RAM, and a low-profile cooler. I got to work assembling it, with the only required modification
Yeah,
being
that's so
cutting out a hole in
fire!
the removable frame for the GPU. And with an afternoon of work, I had an older mid-range computer and a Hot Wheels chassis with no accessories. Not something cool enough for a video, but at least it...
Bro, this shit got a disk drive and a floppy disk drive? Does it actually work?
Well, it turns out word about my hunt for the Hot Wheels CRT got around. Not one, but 2 members of the DFW retro computing community had Hot Wheels CRTs for me. Abraham had a monitor and a keyboard for me, while David had a second monitor and a Palm Press. Rather than making a video, I decided I would unveil it at LTX 2020, where I'd been invited as a featured guest.
No
Then this,
way.
Thing happened in 2020 and plans changed. Nevertheless, I continued to keep my eyes out for other Hot Wheels computer parts, slowly working my way towards a complete set. But things really got interesting when I received another message from David, who had a very special surprise for me. As some of you may know, the Hot Wheels PC had a sister, and her name is Barbie. David hooked me up with a Barbie PC and monitor, along with the original box and much of the original documentation. With both the Hot Wheels and the Barbie PC, walking away from this was no longer an option. And while neither was a complete set, I was on my way there as I tracked down more and more parts. I was convinced nothing was going to stand in my way of getting the missing parts. That is, until one Friday when I was watching the WAN show.
Do you want to do the bounty now? We got a bounty, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Hot Wheels PC. I want to do a video. I've actually wanted to do a video about it for a long time. There's also a Barbie PC, and I'll accept either. I will give you $5 grand for a full set. 5K.
I reached out through Twitter and email, offering to lend them mine for the video, but it was too late.
Oh, no. He popularized it. So when it got popular, now everybody's just gonna start charging absurd prices. Fuck. Damn.
People who own these parts now believed, because a single YouTuber was willing to pay $5,000 for one, that everyone was willing to pay that much. Listing prices skyrocketed and have stayed there ever since, despite the fact that nobody is actually buying them. These PCs really aren't that rare, but are rarely sold on eBay due to their large size. At this point, I felt pretty defeated. There was no way I was going to be able to afford to buy the remaining parts at the newly inflated prices and buy the computer parts to make a sleeper. The project was dead. That is, until Micro Center caught wind of what I was trying to do. Not only did they want in, but they wanted me to crank it to 11. They offered to supply the parts for 2 PCs and told me they wanted to help me make the builds as crazy as possible. I was intrigued and took it upon myself to see just how absurd I could make the parts list before they said no. They didn't. So, armed with a new $7,000 shopping list, I hopped in my car and headed to Micro Center.
$7,000? What the fuck they put in that shit? They're gonna put an actual car. Micro Center is... Yo, you know what? Actually, shout outs to Micro Center. I wish there was more built around my area. I know about one Micro Center in New York, and I went there to get all the parts to build the PC that I currently have right here behind. I wish I could build another PC in Micro Center, but they're fucking good.
Center to take on my first ever big budget project. For the uninitiated, Micro Center is a computer retail store that's basically a haven for nerds. The store is just aisles and aisles of cool stuff, and
Yeah,
more
it's
than
so
just
much
computers.
cool shit
They have
in
a
there.
whole maker section with supplies and tools like 3D printers and soldering equipment. But by far, my favorite part about Micro Center is their massive computer component selection.
I'm looking for a keyboard that says, I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world.
Funny enough, back when I used to work for one of Micro Center's now defunct competitors, I still purchased my CPU and motherboard from Micro Center because their prices were lower than my employee discount. They have an online PC builder tool to easily make a list of compatible parts available for same-day in-store pickup. Or, for an added fee, you can have a technician assemble the parts into a gaming.
Ooh, this is what I want. I want something like this. Like my cable management in my PC is like, but I want like a clean PC like this. Ooh, that shit looks so good.
Micro Center also has a promotion where, if you walk into the store with a coupon, they'll give you a free 128 gig flash drive with no purchase necessary. I'll have a link to that coupon in the description.
Okay. How's he gonna put that in the car?
You're right. I don't think it's gonna all fit. Do you think you could pick me up in the Jeep?
Okay, dude. He showed up in the Jeep.
But before we get to work assembling this monster, first let's take a look at the Hot Wheels PC case itself. And more importantly, why building a high-performance gaming PC inside of one of these is not a walk in the park.
No,
To
of
open the
course
computer-
not, because first of all, if you're trying to go high-end, you probably want to try to put a liquid cooler in that shit. It doesn't even have enough vents. The only vents on this device is these two on the back. There's no vents in the front, no vents in the top. Nah, this shit's gonna be crazy hard.
First we need to remove
Plus, it's like, imagine trying to do cable management in this small, closed-off space. You said venting Among Us? Oh, God, come on. This is going to be
these screws.
so
Then
hard.
The main chassis slides right out. This metal frame houses all the computer parts, while the Hot Wheels body is just a shell that slides over it. Right off the bat, you can see there is not a lot of space to work.
There's no space
Unplug
in
some
that.
cables, remove a few screws, and the floppy drive tray slides right out. This tray holds the floppy drive and two 3.5-inch hard drives. 2 more cables, 4 more screws, and the CD-ROM drive slides right out. The motherboard is mounted to a metal plate on the back, which, after removing 2 screws, slides right out. This plate has screw mounts for mini ITX and mini GTX motherboards. Anything larger will not fit. The power supply is like a weird SFX power supply, with mounting ports on the short side rather than the long side. The Hot Wheels power supplies were infamous for their high failure rate, which was supposedly so bad, it led to the company producing these PCs to go in bankrupt. And to be honest, pretty much everything about this computer's design and construction is pretty awful. Finally, we gotta talk about the fan. This single 80mm case fan is mounted to the only case fan port on the entire PC. That's right, the only place to put a case fan is a single 80mm exhaust port. What's even worse is the air intake. When assembled, the only place for air to get into the PC
Is at the bottom? That's the air intake? In the bottom?
is through these 2 tiny slits in the front and a small grate under the case. Modern, high-performance computers produce a lot of heat, and that heat needs to be dissipated for the computer to work properly. Dissipating all that heat with such restricted airflow is going to be a nightmare, but we'll cross that
Oh
bridge
my
when we get to it.
God.
Now that we know what we're dealing with, let's get to work. For the CPU, I'm using a top-of-the-line 16-core 32-thread Ryzen 9. I paired it with a Gigabyte mini ITX motherboard and 64
You got a
gigs of RAM,
Ryzen?
the maximum supported by the tuned
I have a
datasets.
Ryzen in
For
my
the boot drive,
PC.
I went with
I
Samsung 980
like
Pro drives
Intel is
with 4
cool and all,
terabytes
but
of
I
total
fucks
storage
with the
including
AMD
AAC.
Ryzen
For the
shits.
cooler, the first thing I went with was the Noctua NH-L9A low-profile air cooler. For the GPUs on these builds, Micro Center hooked me up with an EVGA RTX 3060 for each of them. This is the biggest card I can possibly fit without a custom water cooling loop, something I'm currently not comfortable doing on my own. To say this was a tight fit would be a complete understatement. Once I removed the heat shroud, I had less than 1mm of clearance to work with. It won't be the happiest graphics cards given the tight
Oh
space,
my
but
God,
at
there's
least
like
with
no
it.
space
As for the
in
power
there.
supply, I went with a Corsair 750-watt SFX modular power supply. But problems arose when I went to install. Long story short, the modular connectors created clearance issues against the cooler. This means I either had to find a different power supply or a different cooler. I reached out to the small form factor PC Discord server for help, and after careful measurement, we concluded that a 92mm liquid cooler radiator might possibly just barely fit, maybe? 92mm all-in-one liquid coolers are pretty niche, and they definitely aren't designed for cooling a CPU this power hungry. Once they sent me a link to a boutique that carried them, I immediately ordered 2. While waiting for the cooler to arrive, I got to work tearing down or shucking these 2 14TB external drives to reuse the hard drives inside. Depending on the hard drive, shucking can be a much more affordable way to get a great high-capacity drive. Mine had white label 7200 RPM helium-filled enterprise drives, which is pretty
Wait,
good.
what did he just do? Did he just order did he just order like a portable drive and then just opened it and then just put it in the computer? People do that? Is that like the smart way to do it? It's just 14 terabytes, but it's still a HDD though. It's not a solid state. You're gonna hear look at that 7,200 RPM. You're gonna hear that shit spinning. Yo, once you go once you go solid state and then you go back to HDD, nah, you're gonna be like, hell no.
I installed them in the floppy drive bay, giving me 28 terabytes of additional hard drive.
28
To get the
terabyte?
floppy drive working, I purchased a simple USB to floppy
What
adapter.
you put it in?
Since
Anime
this, I replaced
hentai?
the connector with a
HD?
direct solder connection and replaced the USB connector with a connector to plug directly into the motherboard. I can confirm that the floppy drive works, but this is the only floppy disk I have, and I don't feel comfortable opening its contents. Once my cooler arrived, it was
You
time to
said
rebuild the
wiener.
PC. This time, I was using a fancier ASUS motherboard and the new CPU liquid cooler. After lots of finagling, I was able to get both the liquid cooler and the power supply installed. And I genuinely cannot believe how close this was to not fitting. The bottom wall of the case, CPU radiator, graphics card, CD tray, and top wall of the case are all butt up
Oh, the cable management is
against each other with no clearance.
is fucked.
If this case was even a millimeter shorter, I don't know what I would have done. Finally, we have the CD drive. Frequent viewers of my channel know I am not a fan of optical drives, but since this isn't a portable battery-powered project, I'm willing to make an exception. While I could have used the original CD drive, I wanted to take things a little further and pack in a Blu-ray drive instead.
Oh,
Micro Center
Blu-ray
loved the idea
drive?
And overnight shipped me 2 Blu-ray burners without a second thought. And after a little bit of painting, I had a matching Blu-ray burner for each computer. So, after routing power and data for everything, I powered it up, tweaked the BIOS, installed Windows, and got to work testing. I ran the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark on default settings, and as I suspected, the cooling was nowhere near adequate. Both the CPU and GPU were pegged at over 90 degrees Celsius. That is way, way too hot. Running the chips at those temperatures continuously will eventually toast them. But fortunately, I had a backup plan. Allow me to introduce my brute force solution. Some call it the PFR0912XHE, some call it the Blowimatron. But no matter what you call it, there's no denying its ability to go burr. Alright, here we go.
Bro. At this point, just put all those parts in a regular case. Because now I'm starting to get upset because I'm like, damn, these are all brand new parts that he's putting into this PC, trying to jam pack it in. And now you're putting a turbo engine.
This fan is rated to draw 4.5 amps, which is over 20 times the power of the premium Noctua I was using
Nah.
before. The blades are rated to spin at 11,000 RPM with a dangerous amount of force. I expected these fans to move a lot of air, but I was blown away by just how powerful they actually were.
It moves by itself. That's how strong. Nah.
With how much power these fans draw, I can't just plug them directly into the motherboard without damaging it. Instead, through the power of soldering, I ran power to the fan through a PCIe power cable and connected the PWM and TAC pins to the regular fan header. I also added a switch to disconnect the PWM pin, so at the flip of a switch, I can run the fan at full blast. And with that, the case frame was fully assembled, but it was still missing the most important part of any gaming PC. There we go. That's more like it. The Hot Wheels PC was finished, but I wasn't done yet. I still had one more computer to build. No expenses were spared on the Barbie PC either. I packed the same insane hardware in it as the Hot Wheels PC. But this time, I knew what I was doing, and I had the right tools to get it done.
Why?
While my Barbie computer setup may only have 2 monitors and no steering wheels, it's got a few exclusive accessories of its own, like a matching printer. I also have 2 cameras for a multicam stream setup, along with a huge backlog of all the classics. But something was still missing from these setups. As great as mouse and keyboard is, some games just aren't the same without a controller. I gave both the Barbie Gamepad and the Barbie PC Pro Pad a try, but they were honestly not the best. What I really wanted was a modern, custom controller to match one of my setups.
Dude, what?
But as returning viewers know, painting is not one of my strengths. Instead, I reached out to Spicy Frog, one of the best controller painters I've ever seen. She wanted in, but now we had to decide, what was the controller going to be? Xbox or DualSense? Barbie or Hot Wheels? After putting a lot of thought into it, we knew there was only one real answer. All of the above. Spicy Frog did an amazing job with these controllers. I
Yo,
sent her
I'm not even
pictures
gonna lie, the Xbox one looked fire as fuck too. The Xbox Hot Wheels one looks so good.
of the computers and told her to do
Yo,
it.
this
With
is
complete
heat.
creative control, she went above and beyond, and I couldn't be happier with how they turned out. So if you're looking for a custom painted controller, be sure to check out Spicy Frog.
All right, I'll check
Finally,
them out.
It was the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to crank some settings and play some games.
Halo Infinite? Okay, buddy. He has actual the car is driving. He built a ramp around it.
Did an amazing job with these controllers. I sent her pictures of the computers and told her to do her things and play some games.
Dark Souls. He was playing Dank Souls. We should check out TikToks. Yo, look at that back air.
Surround to effectively turn the 3 monitors into a single 3072 by 768 60 Hz ultra-wide display. While that resolution may sound kind of low, CRTs have the ability to make modern games look amazing at lower resolutions. They even have some distinct advantages over modern, top-of-the-line gaming monitors.
I will say, high refresh rate on a CRT looks better than every single LCD ever made, period, in motion.
Really?
I stand by that.
Gaming on CRT monitors like these is unironically an amazing experience. Running at lower resolutions means I can crank the settings to the max without sacrificing frame rate. With DLSS off, RTX on, and settings cranked to the max, the Hot Wheels PC smoked any benchmark I threw at it. And for those wondering, yes, it runs Doom. And Doom. And Doom. And Doom. And Doom, and of course, Doom, and Crisis. While the setup looks great, it didn't sound...
I was about to say, like, how does it sound? And now he's showing the sound. That shit must sound... It must sound terrible.
Great. Thanks to the fan, this PC sounds like a leaf blower.
Nah.
Well,
see, it's not worth it. It's not worth it because the fucking sound, you hear that shit? Imagine trying to stream. Being a streamer over that sound. It's not worth it.
These plastic speakers did have a bass button that boosts the lower frequencies to try to make it sound more full. It just couldn't compete. So I was very excited when I discovered there was actually a beefier premium set of Hot Wheels speakers made. But then I noticed something on the front. And I knew I had to make it happen.
Okay.
And thus, the Hot Wheels subwoofer was born. Now the PC can finally sound as obnoxious as it looks.
What do you think of Mako soldering? It's Mako.
On the Barbie setup, I only had 2 matching monitors instead of 3. So I took a different approach that gave me 1 high-resolution screen and 1 120Hz screen. Gaming at high refresh rates was awesome, but what I really wanted was more screens. I didn't have any more Barbie monitors, but I had the next best thing, a Disney Princess CRT. Sorry, did I say a Disney Princess CRT? I meant 4 Disney Princess CRTs. And through the power of wasting sponsorship money on retired professional AV equipment, I was able to unite these tubes into a single 3x2 CRT wall. But I still wasn't satisfied. 6 monitors wasn't enough. I needed more. There we go.
What
That's
the fuck?
But looking back at this stock-looking Hot Wheels PC, I thought to myself, what if it wasn't a sleeper? What if I fully embraced the horrors of aftermarket car mods? Is it even possible to make this build even more obnoxious? The answer is always yes. Spinning rims, carbon fiber wing, a flame-grilled exhaust pipe, and of course, simulated head gasket failure.
Oh my god, nah. This guy is so extra. Come on.
This video has been a series of dumb ideas, but there's one idea I have left that is just too dumb for me to
What
do
else?
And it involves the fact that the 3090 is a half-length card. So Linus, if you're out there and want to help make this dumb idea a reality, I've got a present for you. Hit me up. This video was by far the most expensive project I have ever...
I could fucking imagine. I could imagine. Jesus. Micro Center is literally an example for how to do promotions right. Dude, that's nuts.